Hello, darling Evolved Nation.
Today we're talking about...
Do I call you darling?
Sometimes.
Myself do that.
You know, the other day, I was like hanging out. We were like at this family event, and there was this little kid there. He was just crazy. And he was like...
so cute.
Yeah, but he was like having a good time. You could tell that he was like really enjoying like playing with me. We were like wrestling together. It was like overwhelming for him, like too much stimulation. And so he tried to bite me. And his parents, I don't know if you saw that, but his parents got really mad because I was kind of like letting him bite me, and I was biting him back. And because I was like, oh, that's what I do too.
Because Eric is a child.
Sure. Yeah, sure. But his parents got really mad. They're like, no biting. Because I guess this kid doesn't.
They got mad at him.
They got mad at him. Yeah. But I think they like tried to. Like,
well, he has history at daycare
so
biting kids.
Anyways, but it brought up to me because sometimes you get like too lovey-dovey.
I was
simulated,
like,
and you try to bite me.
I do bite you.
Yeah, you bite me, and sometimes now you say
sometimes I pinch you and squeeze you.
Yeah, you hurt. You like squeeze me. I know you like crush me. You like, sometimes like there's like choking involved in certain scenarios.
Yeah, but it's not like the sexy kind. It's like the dangerous kind.
Yeah, it's like I'm overwhelmed right now and I need to... No,
it's not I'm overwhelmed. It's I love you too much.
That's what I mean.
I can't show you with just a normal hug.
Yeah.
I have to bite you.
I know. And so that's what I thought about.
No, I totally got that kid. I was like, man, I feel you. Sometimes I get very excited and
You're
very,
like, that
very
Eric,
happy.
can't keep my teeth off him.
Where was this going?
Well, I was just thinking
Is it because you saw my face? I did the bite face.
Exactly.
I did it. I do it. I go like...
Yeah. And also, I thought this would be a good time to tell you.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
It's
not going to stop. I can't stop it.
I don't know if
it's like our daughter who hits.
I mean, would you like bite a police officer?
If I liked him enough.
He's like, hey, you're under arrest for biting. We just keep biting him?
No. I wouldn't be under arrest for biting. I really have to like a person and want to bite them.
Right.
Like I almost ate my baby.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned our daughter because our daughter hits. And she gets so excited. She thinks it's the best. One time she jumped on my back and fell on her face out of nowhere. And I was like, Ellie, you need to stop jumping on me. And she's like, yeah. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, she loves hard and very outwardly. Like me. It's just like it has to come out of all my extremities.
Yeah, it's funny, because like that's so like been conditioned out of me as a man. Like I think like it's funny because if Francis was hitting people, that would not be okay, right? You
but
like,
sometimes he squeezes me. Sometimes he bites me.
Yeah, but like it's okay that it's funny that Elodie does it.
Well, because she's also like half his size, so when she hits, it's like she's giving you like a.
You don't think she's gonna be a teenager like hitting me and that'll be funny?
No, I don't think. I think she's gonna grow.
Sometimes you hit me.
Well, I'm like, okay, well maybe.
Yeah, sometimes you're
I don't know. I do think.
So
I think
yeah,
it's true. It's true. Like even I asked Francis. I said, "Do the girls at school like smack you when they're talking? Like ha 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 pow?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, "Okay." I think it's like, yeah, you're right. I think it's a girl thing. Like boys are conditioned like don't hit people. Girls are like.
It would be totally unacceptable if I was laughing and you made a good joke and I just hit you. Like that would be unacceptable, right?
Yeah. Well.
But it's totally funny that like I would tell a joke and then you'd hit me.
But I don't hit you. It's like more of like a ha ha, like a.
Well, sometimes it's hard.
Well, if it's really funny, that's your problem.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's true. That's my problem. I am pretty funny. Anyways.
Off topic.
So speaking about messing up.
How to bounce back fast from when you mess up.
That's right. So today we're talking about, we talked about the subject a lot, repair, but we really wanted to go back on it. I've been talking to a lot of people this week. And, a lot of times what happens is like they mess up. They're like, I messed up. I'm like, hey, so here's some options of what you can do. And then like we have a conversation a week later and I'm like, so how did that go? How'd you repair? They're like, I haven't repaired yet. It's been like a week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what have you been doing?
In their defense, if you don't talk about it.
That's kind of scary, right? So it's like, you gotta repair. Anyways.
I get it. If you don't talk about it, doesn't rock the boat, it's good. I know why you're doing it. Well, just like there's some people out there who understand why I bite. But I understand why people don't do it.
And I think what's really important here.
No good.
For this episode, if you're listening, recognize how you repair, because what happens a lot is some people mess up, something happens, there's a disconnection, etc. And then they don't repair, but just over time, they kind of fall back into the same pattern of, okay, I guess we're okay now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, so we don't talk for a few days. Eventually we just kind of hang out around each other and then we just pretend like that never happened until it happens again. And then it's like we do the same thing. It's like 5-6 days. We don't repair.
Are you talking about me?
Well, I don't know. I think I'm talking about...
Well, you're going too fast, though.
Okay. I think I'm talking about a lot of couples in general.
Okay. It's because you're talking about the whole
like
entire
9
message.
cups of coffee this morning.
I can see that. Your leg is... You're literally... Like, I thought there was a footstool under the table.
People are wondering why the camera's shaking.
I put my, I put my feet on your feet, thinking like, oh... And I'm looking, wait, what is he on? There's no footstool here. No, it's just you being extra hyperactive.
Okay, so opening question?
But slow down. Yeah, opening question. Can I ask you first?
All right, I'm slowing down.
When you mess up in your relationship, Eric, when you would mess up with me and you,
It happens maybe
what's
once a
your
year.
default? What's your default?
Yeah. So
Do you
I
shut
mess up a
down?
lot. Oh, sorry.
You have options here.
I am very excited.
Option A, do you shut down? Option B, do you get defensive? C, beat yourself up? Or D, repair quickly? There wasn't letters there. I just added them to slow his brain down.
Okay, so there's a couple things. So first of all, if I notice that I mess up,
Mhm.
right? So if it's like something I notice internally for myself, I beat myself up
Definitely.
and then I shut down.
Yes.
I withdraw.
1000%.
Right. So let's say, I made a mistake, something happened, blah, blah, blah. I usually don't talk about it at all with anyone. Feel a little bit of shame, some guilt. And then I just tell myself that I'm like a piece of trash and I try to do something to not make myself feel like a piece of trash the next time.
You beat yourself up a lot.
Yeah, but I never talk about it. I never talk to you about it, etc. That's like when things happen internally.
Yes.
When you bring things up and you say, "Hey, Eric,
Which is never.
you messed up." It happens a lot, actually. It does happen a lot. Yeah, you're.
So shocked.
I think it's like, "Hey, I don't think that's cool," or sometimes in the moment you're like, "Hey, what you're doing is not okay." Like,
Oh, yeah. That's why I don't do it.
yeah. So in that moment, I get defensive,
Oh, yes.
and then I try to prove or justify why my actions are correct. So very grandiose, very controlling.
Yeah,
That's
that
like where I
wasn't
go.
an option, but you're right. We should have added that one.
Yeah,
Justify.
yeah, I justify. So that's
Mhm.
kind of where I go. Then I repair eventually.
Well, you shut down first, like,
Yep.
and
Yeah, oh,
if
yeah,
can I
yeah.
add, you shut
Yep.
down first because you've justified and because sometimes it can be a little aggressive, then you shut down because then you go into shame of like, "Ooh, I was maybe too rough with Kate. Maybe I said some things
got
that
you.
I got too defensive." And in my defense, I started like shaming or blaming, and then you shut down because then you're like, "I suck," and then you beat yourself up, and then you shut down, and then while you're shut down, you beat yourself up.
And I think it's because I really want to stop the dysfunction, right? So there's some conflict avoidance there
Mhm.
where it's like, I just don't want to keep doing things that are hurtful.
Mhm.
I think that's a lot of times why people
Yeah,
tend to
if I
withdraw.
step back, I'm not gonna continue hurting.
Yeah, I think some people withdraw typically because they're like, I don't have the answer, or I don't have an
Mhm.
answer to this, or there's nothing I can do that'll make this thing better.
Mhm.
For me, typically I withdraw because I'm like, it's like the white knight idea. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to stop causing pain. So as a favor to everybody, I'm just going to go in my own little world.
Yeah.
That's my way of justifying
Yeah, I
it.
could see that.
Right. Which really is just self-protection. So that's typically where I go when I mess up. And I will say, I mean, joking. I said joking earlier, I mess up a lot. That's fair. Right. I mess up a lot.
Yeah, you mess up, yeah.
Well, all right. What about you? When you
A
mess up
lot. I mean,
in
as
your
much as a
relationship,
normal person
yeah.
messes up, I think. I
What about
would
when
say
you
a
mess up
lot.
in a normal relationship? What do you do?
When I mess up, I get defensive. Like, if you bring it up to me, I'll get defensive. And then I shut down. Like, I go right into shutdown mode
Yeah.
as I beat myself up in the same time. I think shut down and beat myself up kinda goes hand in hand.
You're a fawner too. You're like,
That's me shutting down.
yeah, but like before you shut down, oftentimes you'll like you just like try to give whatever. You like placate. You're like
Placate,
you're like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I'll fix it by doing this. I'll do that. I'll do this. I'll do that. Just don't worry about it. I got
Yeah,
everything.
that's more of like the defend. Like I defend. It's
Mhm.
like, and that's me defending myself. It's like, oh, he's not gonna think I'm a bad wife if I like make all these false promises.
Yeah.
And sometimes false, sometimes true promises, but sometimes it's too many promises, and then I can't actually like hold up that end of my bargain because that was like a lot. I
How
don't
often
remember
would you
half the
say?
things I said.
How often do you initiate repair in your mind?
How often do I
Yeah,
initiate
like let's say
repair?
percentage of the time.
50%.
50% of the time you're
Yeah,
initiating
I
repair.
would say I would say it's pretty like equal.
Okay. How often would you say we don't repair? Like an argument happens, it kind of gets swept and it just disappeared. Like,
I think in my head, 100% of the time it is repaired.
oh,
But my definition of repair versus your definition of repair is very different.
what's your definition of repair?
My definition of repair is I find solutions in my head. I fix the problem by myself. Your solution of repair is we have to talk about it.
Yeah, so that's actually great. I think so. First of all, we need to talk about what repair is.
Yes.
So when we're talking about repair, I think what you're talking about is resolution, right? Which is like the issue has been resolved.
No, because I'm repairing in my head.
Yeah. So do you feel more connected after you've solved the problem?
No,
you feel more connected?
because I don't solve the problem because I'm doing it by myself and you don't even know it's happening.
Yeah. So this is really important because I think we need to distinguish repair and resolve. So to me, repair is the coming back together and like strengthening the bond and bringing connection back.
Yes.
A lot of people try to resolve problems,
Mhm.
but never repair.
And what is resolve?
Resolve is trying to mitigate the impact of the future problem or to prevent the future problem from happening. So an example of resolving would be
1000%. I resolve.
yeah. So resolving would be like, you didn't get the full grocery list at Costco or whatever. And I'm like, that sucks. I went to look in the fridge and there wasn't what I wanted. And that was on the list. So I'm kind of saying like, hey, I'm disappointed you didn't pick this up, blah, blah, blah. And your response is like, okay, next time I will look at the list better. I will make sure that every time I go to Costco, I will look at the list and I will buy exactly what's on the list.
Yeah, and it goes
To
as
you, that's like
far as,
repaired.
yes, and it also goes as far as, I know we need bread, but it's not on the list, so I'm not going to buy it just to not make angry anybody.
Sure, exactly. And so you're
Not
kind of
to
like,
make angry
so that's
anybody.
the way that you would resolve it, is to follow the list to the letter
To the letter.
so that in the future, Eric can't blame me.
Yes, and in my head, that's repairing. I was repairing.
Yeah. So there's something going on below the surface. It's actually really great that you bring this up because I think it's where a lot of people get tripped up.
Yes.
So below the surface, there's this other part, which is I don't feel like my voice matters in this relationship. I don't feel like you respect some of the things that I want. I don't think you prioritize me, etc.
Right. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. The example I always use is people are like, they're like, I want resolution. I want this thing. So if you're like, I want my partner to hug me more. It's like, okay, so if you went to your partner and you said, I want you to hug me more, and they hugged you right away, and then 30 minutes later they hugged you again, and then 30 minutes later they hugged you again, would you feel more satisfied?
No.
Probably not, right?
No.
Because there's no repair. They're not acknowledging your loneliness. They're not acknowledging that you feel invisible or like your needs aren't being met in the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a very like transactional part to it, but it's never going below the surface, which is to connect emotionally one-on-one, which is what secure attachment's all about. Right. Is that making sense?
Yes, it does make sense. So I think that what happens oftentimes, and every couple, we screw up.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's no couple
Absolutely.
out here that has not made a mistake, or nobody in the relationship. Everyone screws up. But what happens is oftentimes, and for me, this is very much true, is when we screw up, instead of acknowledging that we made a mistake or, saying, that something went wrong, like I start beating myself up. I start looking at all the things that I did wrong, where I went wrong, or I beat Eric up, not with my fists, but in my head. Like, oh, he's always like this. He never does that. And I start, I get very grandiose and I start thinking these things to myself. I think them. And when I'm not in a healthy mind, I think them. And when you're not in a healthy mind space, you say them.
Well, yes. And what you're talking about is like this idea of contempt, which is so great. So really important to understand it, like blame, right? I like to talk about like the lens of contempt. So a lot of times when people mess up, their first thing to go to is either contemptuous of self, I'm at fault. That's shame, right? That's self-punishment, kind of, I'm shitty, blah, blah, blah. Or contempt of the other. Well, it's their fault because they didn't.
Yep.
Well, if only they were, well, if Eric would have told me what was on the list instead of just putting it on there, etc.
Yeah.
And so this is very common, right? Because a lot of this has to do with being right and blaming others.
Yes.
But if your go-to, you have to think about yourself here. When something goes wrong, if your first thing is to think about either I'm the problem or they're the problem, you're already messing up.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not going to help you move into repair. Then essentially what it's going to do is going to think about solving the quote unquote problem you imagine being a problem, but it's not going to be connecting.
Right.
Okay. So this is the idea of like shame, self-punishment, contempt towards others, blaming others, thinking you're better than others, right? All that type of behavior will not lead to repair. So
yeah. And I think no matter the mistake, the action that caused the disconnection in your marriage, there is a way to look at it through a lens of accountability. I think in everything that comes up in the relationship, we all have a role to play. We're two imperfect humans living in very close proximity. So things I'm going to do are going to have a direct impact on Eric and vice versa. So even though, maybe I'm the one who, we keep using this grocery analogy, but
sure, it's great.
Maybe I'm the one who went to the grocery store, went way over budget because I bought things that were not on the grocery list. And then Eric was like, oh my gosh, like we don't have the money to buy this right now and blah, blah, blah. And you never follow the list and blah, blah, blah. Like, yes, he could look at me and blame me and be like, hey, Kate, you don't follow the list. We make plans. We talk about the finances and you're not following through on the things we talk about. I can look at him and say, hey, you're thinking that you're better than me and all these things is things that we need. And I'm trying to be a good mom and I'm trying to be a good wife. And you're not appreciative of that. You're not appreciative of the fact that I did groceries, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's easy for us to point fingers. But instead, if when we make a mistake, instead of looking at what the other person did wrong, looking at ourselves, beating ourselves up, we can say, hey, where did I make a mistake? What could I have done differently so that this situation didn't have a direct impact on Eric and vice versa? And sometimes it's nothing. Like sometimes it's like, hey, no, I went to the grocery store. I got the groceries I know we needed. But, next time I could be a little more aware of the budget so that it doesn't have a direct impact on the rest of our finances for the rest of the month,
Yeah. I want to give a little cheat code here because before we move into the framework that we're going to teach, one of the little cheat codes that I found has been really good is I try to move into collaboration. And the best way for me to do that is to get on the same page. And one of the best ways for me to try to get on the same page with this person is to tell them when they make a complaint, if it is true what they're complaining about, to say, you're right. You're right. I made a mistake. So I think about that, right? How much would it dissolve if I was like, hey, I saw you bought all this stuff. You went way over budget, right? It would be easy for you to say, well, we need this and we need that and all that.
Defend. Yeah.
But how good would it be? How much would it lend into having a more open conversation if you said, you're right. I did go over budget.
Yeah.
I made a mistake.
Yeah. And even then, even going further is instead of looking at the actual action or looking at, the system, like our marriage in itself, we can look at maybe the behavior that is behind that. And I think we're going to go through this in the framework, but just quickly, if I look at the behavior behind it, when you do this, it makes me feel like I'm not being heard because we spent, an hour talking about the budget yesterday. And then you went ahead and bought whatever you wanted above budget. So that really made me feel like the conversation we had yesterday didn't really mean much to you. And it made me feel like you didn't really acknowledge or hear, my worries about our financial situation right now or whatever. So I'm looking more at the behavior instead of the action and how it's impacting me and what impact it's having on my emotion.
Yeah. And so I think, then if we break down the framework, the first part is really about acknowledging. So let's say you were the one that made a mistake. This is what we want to think about, right? So in this case, the whole grocery thing, maybe you did go over budget, et cetera. And the first thing is to name the mistake without minimizing, without exaggerating, without justifying, right? So it'd be really easy for you to say, well, we needed all this stuff and we had to get this and blah, it was on sale and blah, 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 right? First step is just to acknowledge.
Yep.
You're right, Eric. I did go over budget, right? So that's kind of like the first thing. That alone will change the entire tone of the conversation, right? You said you'd be home at 6 p.m. You were home at 6:30, right?
You're right.
You're right.
I did say I was going to be home at 6 p.m. and I did get home at 6:30.
That's right. I was late. I'm sorry about that, right? That's kind of the first thing. So if you're not doing that, that's the first thing you need to be doing. Now, again, if it's not true what you did, if it's hey, in that case, it's hey, you went over budget and kid's oh, sorry, I was unclear about the budget. And that's true. You could say that. So you could still apologize and say, oh, hey, I'm sorry. I just actually wasn't aware that we even had a budget. Right. And that would then gain more information and be you're right. Then I could say that. I could say, oh, you're right. Sorry for yelling at you. We don't have a budget. I'm just kind of scared and realized that this was a big expensive gift.
Or I made a budget on the computer myself and haven't even shared it with you.
Yeah. Why didn't you download it into your brain like that? So that's the first thing is you have to acknowledge as the person who made the mistake. If you can't do that, that's going to be really tough for you to repair.
Yeah, but
right?
That's a very important step because it makes your partner feel seen and heard. It makes them feel like what they said means something to you. And it's not going to be exaggerated. It's not going to be minimized. You're just stating the actual fact of the matter. The fact of the matter is, yes, I went over budget. No, I didn't stick with our budget.
Well, and it's also the first step to change, right? Because all transformation starts with truth. So if you're unwilling to just be honest and say, I made a mistake, well, you're not gonna be able to change. That's the first step. I made a mistake, And so the second thing is then to step into analysis, right? And so again, you don't want to go too deep into this. A lot of people are like, why did I decide to go over budget? When I was a child and
God.
Okay, listen. Okay, what I mean by analyzing is analyze the specific situation about what happened. And this is where Kate, in this case, you made a mistake, right? She would do this work and kind of respond with her analysis by kind of empathizing with what's going on with me. So something that you might do might say, hey, I realized we talked about the budget yesterday, and seeing this $600 grocery bill, right, after we budget $400 for it, would totally set you off. It would probably make you feel like I don't listen to you. I don't respect, our budget. I don't respect our finances. And that must be really scary for you, right? And so this is like the whole idea of you adding your analysis to it.
Yeah, you're not analyzing the problem, like the actual action that happened. You're analyzing how this had an impact on your relationship. You're analyzing the impact of your action on the relationship, not analyzing of why did I buy that many groceries? Well, it's probably because there was a lot of things on sale. Then you're falling into justification. What you're trying to do here in the analyze part is after you've acknowledged your mistake, now you're analyzing to see how that mistake has had
Impacted
an
your partner.
impact
Yeah.
on your partner.
And this is a great way to get them on board as well, right?
Mhm.
There's plenty of times when I make a mistake and Kate, is hurt. And I actually, I genuinely don't know why it hurt you,
Mhm.
right? So I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that you're experiencing this pain. Can you help me understand what happened?
Yeah, so
Right?
maybe the analyze at that moment, you're unable to analyze because you don't know. Like you're like, I came home like 5 minutes late. Like I don't understand why this is
Yeah,
hurting you
maybe
as
I
much as
forgot
it
about an
is. Like
event. Maybe there's all
that's
kinds of
it. And
reasons.
so then you can question and get curious and all of this, the acknowledge, the analyze, the goal of this is to make your partner feel heard. So you can even check in like after I say, I know we talked about the budget. It must have been really hard for you to see this $600 bill that we had budgeted for 400 and it must have made you feel like I didn't really respect our conversation yesterday. Am I right in saying that? It's okay for you to check in and to be like, is that really what happened? Is that how you're feeling? Mark might be like, no, I'm angry because you bought too much meat and we have extra meat in the freezer and now we're going to have to eat meat for like weeks and it's going to go bad and we keep wasting food and blah, blah, blah. And then there's like, okay, so now we're like, it isn't even about the budget. It's about something completely different. So let's build on that. And so acknowledge that and analyze now and analyze again. So you might be going back and forth a little bit between the
Mhm.
acknowledge and the analyze until you truly understand what the impact of the situation had on your partner.
That's right.
And then you can move on to the next step, which is to adjust.
Mhm.
So at this step, you're going to be making one small practical change that can, have an impact on your spouse and make your spouse build that trust in you again.
Yeah, and I think this is like where you want to make a commitment
Yeah.
here, right? Like this is a big thing that I do with you or with the kids, when I'm repairing. It's great to say like, I'm sorry, I understand this how it hurt you. I'll try not to do that again.
Mhm.
Right? So that's one that's great. That's fine. But it's even more powerful to say, next time that comes up, this is what I'll do instead. Or
Mhm.
hey, moving forward, hey, I know that, I went over budget. Moving forward, before I leave to go to the store, I'm gonna keep in mind an amount. And then as I'm getting groceries, I'm gonna kind of like tally what that amount is.
Yeah, I'm
To
going
see
to
when I'm
real
done.
time put you on the spot here. Sometimes I do that.
'Kay?
And I think that this is good for the listener to hear because the response of the person who was hurt is very important at this stage. This is what's going to build trust for a partner like me who doesn't really know or doesn't really want to have conversations. What's going to have them continue doing it is your response here. Because what happens oftentimes, and it's very true on your part, but what happens oftentimes is I'll make an attempt to adjust. So I'll make an attempt to maybe talk about something that I'll do next time. You know what? From now on, Eric, I'll make sure that I check the list. And you always say, or often say, well, actions speak stronger than words, or I can't trust that anything you say right now is like I don't know if I can trust anything you're going to say right now. In that moment, you're probably still angry. You're probably still reeling about the situation. Whatever happened to bring you to this argument is still very weighing heavy on your heart. However, that response makes me feel that, okay, well, it doesn't matter what I do. He's still going to be pissed off about it. So I'm just not going to try and repair because it doesn't matter what I say. He's not going to believe me. or he's not gonna, trust that I can do it. And already I don't trust that I can do it. So I'm like, sometimes when you say that, I'm like, why do I even bother? Like, why do I even bother to repair? So that's why a lot of times I'll just resolve on my own. Cause it's like, if I talk to Eric about it, he's going to make me feel like shit and be like, nah, you're not going to do it anyway. In other words. And then I'm like, what's the point? Why am I even doing this? So I think being the receiving partner of this, it's important to check yourself in the adjust. If you're still angry, just say nothing. Just say thank you. And
Okay.
and where am I? What is happening now in your head?
Well, I guess what comes up for me is how dependent you are on me receiving your plan of action in order for you to execute it.
Right.
And when you say like, I don't trust myself, it's to me, it's like very reflective or like dependent on me. So it's like, I guess my first response was like, so what if I don't believe you?
That's true.
Like I guess like this is kind of where it comes down is like, why aren't you following through on your commitment?
Okay.
But part of it is like, no, I can't follow through on my commitment unless I know that it's going to matter to you.
Yeah. And I
And
think
it's like,
that's
but
why.
that's the gridlock.
Exactly. But I think that's why you just saying thank you. Then I'd be like, okay, I trust that I can do it. You trust that I can do it. And that's it. But
Yeah, I think like for me, like I'm trying to put myself in your position. Like if somebody told me like, well, actions speak louder than words, and I don't believe that your words until I see action, my response would be, yeah, that's fair.
yeah. And I think that's been my response. When you do say that, that's my response. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So I'll just show you.
Yeah, and then it's up to you
Yeah.
to show me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like not even to say like, because this is what we want to move away from. Like I think this is kind of part of the problem is like you're trying to control the narrative that I have about you in my head. But what's actually most important is that you control the narrative that you have about you in your head.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to control, this is like so many couples are like this too, right? It's like, well, I'm not going to do the thing unless I know that it's going to have an impact on the way they think about me.
Yeah, and it's almost like maybe I'm looking for permission. If I'm like, I'm gonna look at the list next time. I'm not saying it, but it's like, is that gonna make you feel better? Is
Yeah.
that gonna make you feel
It's like
better?
broad functioning. Like
Yeah.
you need the answer from me.
Yeah. But instead it's like, hey, I'm a good wife. I made a mistake. What would a good wife do in this situation? Well, a good wife would check the list next time or
Yeah.
double check the
what do I
budget
want to
before
do?
going to the
Yeah. Like,
grocery
what do I
store.
want to do? Right. And that's the thing.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And if that doesn't make Eric happy, that doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
Like,
But
because sometimes Eric's going to be unhappy about my choices.
yeah, but I think the response can be checked a little.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like what you're talking about is moving more into collaboration. So again, like just as we're talking about, like, and again, like I'm trying to tell you here as well, because if you're saying that that's a problem for you, well, that should be spoken up. Like you should say, hey, like what I would really like in these moments
In this moment
when I'm
during the
making a
4As?
commitment, yeah, that would be
Okay.
something that you need.
Okay.
Right. So maybe like, hey, I notice that it's my responsibility to make this change. And I notice how much my self-confidence and self-esteem is tied to your acceptance of me. I want to break that. And at the same time, it would help me if you were a little more positive response to the things that I do. And so maybe moving forward, if I do something, I'd love it if you could notice it and tell me the positive thing I did. Is that something you can do for me?
Yeah.
Like how would that land for you?
Yeah, I think that would land for me. And I think that would clarify things for you too. Like, I think then I would not need to defend myself so much because in that moment, like, I know that I could say that to you and you could be like, okay.
Yeah, like what you really want to get away from, and this is like just my advice to everybody who's listening and you, but my advice to myself. What you really want to get away from is the reason I can't do X, Y, and Z, or the reason I'm
Is
doing this
because
behavior that's not healthy is because of the way that you do X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Like that's gridlock. Because then it's like until you change, but then I might be like, well, until you take action consistently,
Mhm.
I'm not going to trust you. And now
Well,
you're in this gridlock,
and
right?
that's where, maybe we differ from other relationships because even if you say that to me, I will still take that action.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I'm like, you don't have to believe me, but I am going to take an action. A fragile relationship or a relationship that might be not as in a strong place like we are, that person, if you respond in that way, might be like, oh, okay, then I won't do it. And then they don't. And then you'll fall into these same cycles again and again and again and again.
Yeah. And I think also like just kind of like closing the loop on this, it is important to also understand that in that moment when I'm saying like, well, I can't trust you, blah, blah, that I'm kind of in my
Yeah.
adaptation.
Yeah. And that's what I
And that, like,
realized.
yeah, you have to accept that like Eric does trust me,
Mhm.
but in this moment, so
He's
close
still
to a
little
mistake that I
angry.
made,
Yeah.
right? It would make sense that this is an example of why he can't feel he can trust me.
Yeah.
And that's not true. That's just true for him right now. That's his
Exactly.
experience.
Exactly. And
Right?
that he's upset about this and he's allowed to be upset about this. It makes sense that he's upset about this. Oftentimes these are words I repeat to myself. He's allowed to be upset about this, and it makes sense that he's upset about this. If I was in his place, I'd probably be upset too. If I had a conversation with Eric and I was like, I had made a plan and I had worked really hard and then I told him something and then he came home literally the day after and did something complete opposite, yeah, I'd probably be pissed.
Yeah.
So,
And I want to acknowledge, before we move on to our last Abe, like I do want to acknowledge that, like, thank you for saying that. Because yes, I can be a little more receptive and champion some of the actions you do take. Because a lot of times what happens is, I'm not super vocal about some of those things. And I'll say, thanks, that was great, it's what you did. But I could probably be even more vocal and even sometimes even exaggerated to kind of let that land for you.
maybe.
Right?
Yeah. Because I think for me, being a person who doesn't repair because I'm afraid it's going to rock the boat or because I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing and then it's going to create a bigger argument, like that's a big reason why I don't do it is because I want to keep stillness. And so I try to resolve things by myself in my head. I'll find solutions. I'll just look, okay, next time next time I will go to the grocery store
Yeah.
and look at the list. And then I will do my best to be exactly as Eric said. And that doesn't necessarily repair.
From the outside, it looks like withdrawal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So important to understand that, right? It's like,
Yeah.
so you're like, I'm protecting myself. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to do everything on my own.
Mhm.
Just understand that to your partner on the outside, it looks
It
like
looks
withdrawal.
like withdrawal. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And then our fourth one. So we talked about
Yeah.
acknowledge, analyze, adjust. Now we're talking about advance.
Yeah.
This is a big one,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's the one we skip out a lot on because a lot of times some couples are good at being like, yes, you're right, I made a mistake. Analyze how it impacted you. I'm going to do this next time. And that's it. It's done. But there is this advance part that is very important. And that's what distinguishes repair from resolve. Because resolve, you could be like, sorry, I made a mistake. I'll do this next time. The repair part is in this last step, which is the advance.
Yeah. And what we want here is that we want to move on from this, right? This is so important. I see this so many times in couples. It's like, we say it's repaired, but it's not.
Mhm.
And so if there's something that still needs to be repaired in that moment, that's part of the repair cycle. What you don't want to do here, and I see so many people do this, where it's like, yeah, everything's good. I'm saying too, because I've done this,
Mhm.
where it's like, hey, are we repaired? I'm like, we're repaired. Like everything's fine. It's good. But what happens? I miss your bids for connection. I intentionally withhold love. I'm a little bit colder. And you're like, Eric, is everything okay? Like, I thought we repaired. And then I need to come back. I'm like, no, I guess I still have this resentment. And it's like, well, that should have been repaired. Like, because we cannot advance if there's this unresolved resentment. And so many people, it's like, well, because this is the other part, right? Some people defend their resentment because it's like, I'm resenting something from you 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's
Or
like-
this grocery store thing brought up something that I have been holding back for like months or years.
Yeah. And so now that thing needs to be repaired. But at some point, I'm speaking to myself here in that example, right? So if you're the one that did the budget and repaired, blah, 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 at some point I have to let go of this idea that Kate made this mistake and that this mistake means everything about her inability to be trusted and blah, blah, blah. And this whole story
Hey,
that I'm
we
making
just
up.
did a let go of that.
Surrender
An episode on surrender.
Yeah. And so what we really want you to think about is you have to choose to actively advance here.
Yeah.
If you want to keep just digging up skeletons and bringing them up over and over and over again, that's going to keep getting in the way of the connection that you want, by the way. This is important, right? Because I want to be more connected to you. But every single time I bring up, here's an example how you can't be trusted. Here's an example how you can't be trusted. That's me being guarded and holding you at arm's length. Me being one up. And so I need to actively choose to advance. And Kate needs to actively choose to advance as well, which means that she's not going to keep being in that shame cycle. Being in like, oh God, I made that mistake 3 years ago. And oh God, I'm the worst. And so that's really important. I think about us advancing from my alcoholism, right? That's a big one. It took a lot of time. We were working through it. But now it's a lot easier to talk about. When you talk about it, there's still tears that come up. It's still a big deal. It still impacts us. It doesn't mean the pain's gone, but it means that we don't actively allow that to define me, define our marriage, define Kate, right? And so that's the idea of advancing here.
And also, and I love that you brought up that example, we acknowledge that this is something that's going to take repair for the rest, for a little, for the rest of our
It's like
relationship.
when it comes up, I can support you.
Yeah, when it comes up, I know that alcoholism is going to be a sensitive subject. So I'm going to have to be very aware of how I bring it up. When I bring it up, I'm going to have to Be very aware not to use it as a weapon,
Mhm.
because sometimes we can take these moments and use them as weapons. But these are things that, yes, sometimes there's some repair that will take a little longer to do. Like if especially if it's like traumas in your relationship or big things that have happened. Yes, this repair is going to be an ongoing thing, but be sure that you talk about it and be sure that, you know, that in the analyze, being the receiving partner, saying things like, this brings me back to when you were an alcoholic. Like this action brings me back to that. And so that helps with the repair, because you're not just focusing on the surface level things. You're really going deep and saying like, this hurts because it brings me back to that time when you used to yell at me and call me names, and because you were drunk, and this moment reminded me of that. Not the grocery moment, but maybe something else,
Yep.
right? Maybe like you raised your voice, and so we're trying to repair from that. And then when he says, I'm sorry, I raised my voice, that wasn't okay.
This is like the analysis
I
part,
Yeah, the
right, that we're
analysis
talking
part, he
about, and
might be like, I know that you don't like when I raise my voice, and that must have really hurt you. And then I can go even further in the analysis and be like, actually, Eric, it brought me back to when you were an alcoholic and you used to raise your voice. It brought me right back there.
yeah.
And so that trauma came right back forward. And I'm really trying to heal from it. But when you do things like that, it comes back for me. And so that helps Eric understand the impact that raising my voice in this relationship doesn't just have like a small impact. This is like, it's huge. This brings back trauma
Mhm.
in our relationship. And so those things in the analysis part need to be brought up so that Eric in the adjustment part can make promises that are, equivalent to the analysis part. So if it was just like, okay, I won't raise my voice again. Well, that might not be enough
Yeah.
to help with the
Or when I
trauma part.
find myself wanting to raise my voice, I'm gonna take a breath.
Yeah.
Right, I'll take 5, I'll go collect myself, and then I'll come back so I can kinda reset.
Mhm.
And then again, like the advance, right, which is, like, we're not gonna sit in this now, right? So
No.
we're gonna create a container for this.
Yeah.
It's gonna open up, we're gonna talk about how we can move forward, and then at some point, we have to decide together to move on. I think what happens a lot in those moments, I say this a lot, but it's like, "Why do you keep bringing this up?" Right? And then we have a
Mhm.
fight about who's right, who's wrong, etcetera. It's like, no, in that moment, we just have to create a container where Kate's pain is acknowledged,
Mhm.
talks about what he can do differently. Kate shares what I can do differently. I repair. I say I'm sorry. We get back together, and then
Mhm.
we actively choose to say, "Hey, that was a big moment," and then we move on.
Exactly. And despite that trauma, despite those big moments that have happened in our relationship, we're still able to repair. Doesn't make things go away. Doesn't mean that they're not going to come back when, if Eric raises his voice, yeah, it's going to come back. But in that moment, for this specific incident where Eric yelled, I'm not going to dwell on it for weeks at a time and be like, oh, he yelled again. And my trauma came back and wah. Like, healthy couples repair within 24 hours. And if we have an argument in front of the kids, it's even more important for us to model that repair in front of the kids, because oftentimes what happens is, and we've all done it, the argument comes up. Sometimes we can't control when it happens. And unfortunately, sometimes the kids are around and they
Yep.
witness it, and our voices are raised, and maybe we're getting frustrated, and maybe we're saying things to each other that aren't okay. But they need that healthy relationship model to show them that, hey, mom and dad are going to fight, but here's how we're going to repair
Mom and dad also
afterwards.
come together.
Exactly.
Yep.
We come together. So it's so important that if the argument was done in front of your kids, that the repair is also done in front of your kids. But that repair, even more importantly, needs to be done within 24 hours of that argument, because the longer you let it simmer, the longer you let it sit, the more hurt you become. And if you're unable to repair within those 24 hours, maybe the analyze part needs to be analyzed again. Maybe you can go up to your partner and be like, hey, I'm still reeling about this budget thing. And I think like I didn't really put the finger on what was really bothering me. But now that I've had time to sit with it, can we talk about this again? This is what's come up for me since. And then we start the 4A's again. Eric will acknowledge that, analyze it again, adjust, and then we'll advance. And hopefully by then we'll be able to advance. But if within that 24-hour window you're still reeling on it, it's important to continue bringing it up, continuing talking about it, maybe taking breaks in between so that you have time to like sit with your thoughts, maybe journal, maybe talk to a friend, but but really coming together within that 24-hour period is so important for your relationship.
Yeah, and if you have trouble with this, we have a free resource just down below. We call it Connection Blueprint. Repair is included in that blueprint, but also how to bring the spark back to your relationship, how to communicate in a way that's collaborative. So this is 4 very specific trainings with PDFs and workbooks included. Again, if you want to grab it, there's a link below. You can click, put in your email, and we'll send that right to you. And we have an extensive repair blueprint that goes through every single step that you can follow in order to really bring this to your relationship. So that's it for us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.